Hello! In this video I'll show you how to make that super cute and extra warm honeycomb stitch, like the one I used here on the honeycomb tam. So that's the right side of the pattern, and this is how the wrong side looks, pretty much like the reverse stocking stitch. That's an easy pattern to make, but you need to be careful, especially during your first rows when you establish the pattern. So cast on an even number of stitches. I have 10 stitches here on the needles, and let's get knitting. I'm using continental way of knitting, so I hold yarn in my left hand, but you'll get same results if you're using English way. Just follow the pattern. The first row will be a preparation row, and that's a wrong side row. That's very important to keep track of your right and wrong side rows. So row 1 would be make a yarn over, then slip one stitch purlwise, just like this, and knit one stitch. That's your pattern repeat for the first row. Yarn over, slip a stitch, and knit a stitch. Yarn over, slip a stitch. Remember to slip the stitch purlwise. That means you insert the right needle into the stitch from right to left. Slip a stitch, knit a stitch. Yarn over, slip a stitch, knit a stitch. And let's do it one more time. Yarn over, slip a stitch, and knit a stitch. That's your first row, and that's a wrong side row. Now let's turn your work and work the first right side row, and that would be a row 2. Knit 2 stitches, knit 1, then knit another one, then slip yarn over purlwise with yarn at back. See, you insert the right needle into the yarn over that you made in the previous row and slip it off the needle. Make sure the working yarn is at the back of the stitch. That's about it. Knit 1, knit another one, slip a yarn over with yarn at back, and do it purlwise. Again, yarn over, knit a stitch, knit another one, and slip the yarn over. Knit, knit, slip, knit, knit, slip. To make sure that you remember which row is the right side row, there is a little trick. You can get a simple stitch marker and just put it inside your knitting on this side of the knitting. You know that was a right side row, so every time you see a stitch marker, that means you're working a right side row. Now turn your work and let's make row 3. Knit 2 stitches together, make a yarn over, and slip one stitch purlwise. Knit 2 stitches together. When you are knitting them together, make sure that one of the stitches is the yarn over that you made in the row 1. So you knit 2 stitches together, then you make a yarn over and slip one stitch purlwise. And let's do it again. Knit 2 together, yarn over, slip a stitch. Knit 2 together, yarn over, slip a stitch. Knit 2 together, yarn over, and slip a stitch. That's your row 3. Turn your work. And now it's time to work row 4. Knit 1 stitch. Okay, knit 1 stitch. Slip the yarn over with yarn it back. Then again, knit a stitch. That's another right side row, and basically if you look at it, what's happening, you are knitting every stitch of the row and you are slipping the yarn overs that you have on your needles, and you're slipping yarn overs purlwise with yarn in back. So whenever you see a stitch that is not a yarn over, like this one, you just knit it. When you see a yarn over, you slip it off. Knit, knit, and slip. Knit, knit, and slip. And that happens every right side row. That's why we need this stitch marker here. So you don't even have to memorize the pattern. Just you know it's a right side row. That means you are knitting everything except for the yarn overs that you slip with the yarn at back. Knit, knit, slip. And that happens every right side row. Now turn your work. And we are coming to the wrong side. That's our row 5. And what happens in wrong side rows is also same thing. You knit together the stitch and the yarn over. If you look at your needles, you will see that some of the stitches are lonely. See, they are just one stitch here. And some of them come in groups of 2. Let's say that's a family of stitches, right? So what you do, you make a yarn over and slip all the lonely stitches. You basically marry them to a yarn over. And you knit together those stitches that come in pairs. That's what's happening. So the first stitch is a lonely one. So we make a yarn over and slip it off. Then we come to a pair of stitches, that is stitch and the yarn over. We knit them together. Again, another lone stitch, so we make a yarn over and slip it off. Another pair of stitches, knitted together. And that happens in every wrong side row when you don't see that stitch marker, when it's not facing you. That means it's a wrong side row and you need to make a yarn over, slip the stitch that stands alone, and knit together stitches that come in a pair. And that's how you do the gorgeous honeycomb stitch. That's how it looks. You can see the pattern coming already. And because of those strands, it's basically double layered, and it makes any knit extra warm and nice looking. Happy knitting!